Welcome to Arlington Public News. I'm Sean Stackhouse.
And I'm James Milan. Thanks for joining us. In this edition of APN, Arlington plays the numbers game. We'll take a look at the latest numbers for school enrollment and for town salaries.
And Arlington responds to the crisis in Puerto Rico. That and more up next. Stay with us. Both the school committee and the Board of Selectmen are taking a close look at numbers this fall. Enrollment numbers are out. How will the increasing number of students affect your child's classroom, and how do municipal salaries in Arlington compare to those in nearby towns? Brenda Mahoney is here with those stories in tonight's Snapshot. Brenda, what's the story here?
Yes, Sean. Well, early numbers show class sizes continue to grow in Arlington Public Schools. Preliminary figures show close to an additional 180 students district-wide. That's over last fall's numbers. The increase is in line with the forecast completed for the town after a jump in student numbers a couple of years ago. School Superintendent Kathleen Bodie told school committee members September 14th that the biggest problem with the increase is balancing the number of students in each classroom. Some elementary school classes have 19 students, while others have up to 25. Bodie points to possibly revising the buffer zones to keep classes and schools balanced.
As you look over this historically, since October 2014, so after the 4 years, we've increased in the district 465 students, which is a 9% increase. So it's a very significant increase that we've been experiencing. You have the chart breakout that you like to see, which gives the distribution of the class sizes, and it's a little bit more unbalanced than last year, and yet we did utilize the buffer zone option to help even class size out somewhat, but this is something that I probably will need to be revisiting.
School committee member Cindy Stark says as a teacher herself, the class sizes are getting too big, particularly at the elementary level.
Almost a quarter of these elementary school classrooms have more than 24 students, 24 or more students, 23% actually, if my math is correct. And it's starting, I just feel like we're gonna have to watch that. That's starting to get scary. And the difference between 21 and 25 is enormous, and you have no idea until you are standing in front of that classroom the big difference that just 4 kids can make.
The district has hired additional staff to help with the increase, including full-time teaching assistants for some larger kindergarten classes that normally have just part-time assistants. Final enrollment numbers will be out in November. The district is working to correct areas of education the state says it's non-compliant in. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education say Arlington Public Schools need to correct over a dozen issues dealing with special education, civil rights, and English language learners. The Department of Education reviews schools every 6 years. In June, it found the Arlington schools lacking in areas ranging from getting students special services in a timely manner to making sure new hires are trained on the school's anti-bullying policy. The school committee and staff recently debated the severity of the issues. The school has a plan of correction that must be handed over to the state by next June. The school committee, however, wants a progress report much sooner, asking for it to be delivered in December. Links to the state's report and Arlington Public Schools correction plan are on our website. There, you'll also find a link to school enrollment data that we talked about in the previous story. Visit acmi.tv/news. Arlington public safety workers are being paid better, but pay for administrators within the town is lagging behind. A new study commissioned by the town says public safety pay is up compared to other nearby communities. Just a few years ago, the town was lagging behind. The study looked at base pay and benefits for all town employees and compared the data to nearly a dozen other similar communities as they have in years past. Representatives of HRS Consulting found the base pay for police officers is within 10%. Firefighter pay is within 3%, and teachers being paid anywhere between 1% below to 14% above average. At the September 25th Board of Selectmen meeting, Selectman Kevin Greeley asked specifically about teachers. The data consultant saying the town has made strides in some areas, but needs work in upping its pay for other town employees.
Would you specifically, are teachers paid competitively in Arlington?
That they're competitive, but there might be, without studying the numbers a little bit more closely, it might be that, certain categories might be below, but I guess on a whole, they're competitive. The public safety appears, for the most part, to be competitive this time around, but a lot of your administrative type positions maybe have fallen behind.
We've actually made tremendous strides with both police and fire since the last round. I'm eager to have a conversation about what can be done now on the non-public safety side, still being responsible to the taxpayers of Arlington. But this study shows me that it's time to have that conversation.
Officials say it's been 20 years since they've reviewed the town's pay classification system and agree it's in need of an update. Some administrative positions being as much as 30% below the average of like communities. The full report is available on our website, along with this story at acmi.tv/news. For Snapshot, I'm Brenda Mahoney. Back to you, James.
Thanks, Brenda. Senator Cindy Freedman is still getting used to being the face out front after spending 9 years working behind the scenes as Chief of Staff to Ken Donnelly. She jumped right into the fall legislative session, chairing the Joint Committee on Public Service and pushing for action on a variety of issues. I had the chance to sit down with Senator Freedman for ACMi's Talk of the Town recently. Here's an excerpt from that conversation. I'm wondering, how are you finding the position of now having a voice, that voice? Are you finding that that's even more satisfying than you had imagined, or are you finding it fairly burdensome? How is that going?
It's an interesting question. I think it varies. I think when I do get concerned, or it feels funny, or I'm not sure, what I do remind myself that this is really important. This is really important. So keep plugging. Yes, it might be uncomfortable in this moment, but just keep moving, because I remember why I'm doing it. Okay, so let's talk about the things that you want to keep moving and that make you realize how important this is. What are a couple of things that you're already knee-deep in, even in these early days of your tenure? Well, I'm knee-deep in the $15 an hour minimum wage. I'm the sponsor in the Senate, the main sponsor in the Senate of that legislation. So I've been very busy. We had a press conference, we had a hearing. So I've been doing a lot of work on that. There is a pension forfeiture bill, which is around when a state or municipal employee under what conditions do they lose their pensions and what causes that forfeiture. That's something I worked on with Senator Donnelly. So it's now coming before the legislature because of a ruling by the Supreme Judicial Court. And so I find myself back in that piece. A lot of work on healthcare right now, especially focused on behavioral health. And the bill that our office did on bail reform is now is part of the omnibus criminal justice package. So I've been very, very involved in that for the past several weeks, getting that ready and getting it into the bill. So those are some of the areas that we've really been busy around. How much of what you just mentioned at least 4 different issues or areas, how many of those are basically, as we had alluded to before, kind of picking up the baton and moving and continuing to move forward on what was already Senator Donnelly's agenda? And how much, if any, of it is something that is, Cindy Freedman's agenda from the get-go here? The pension forfeiture is certainly something that when I'm looking at, I hear Ken's voice in my head. He's just very connected to that issue, and always feel like I'm never doing it justice that he should be in the room, because he really knew that. The bail reform is something that I feel like I have had a lot of ownership in, and was one of the issues that I think that we brought to Ken to say, I think we ought to focus on that. And so that's kind of a middle ground. The $15 an hour I started last year when he was ill. We worked to file that bill. Again, I feel like I'm certainly taking the reins of it, but he's right there on my shoulder going, yeah, you know. And then the whole piece of healthcare and behavioral health, I think, is something that we're going to really be pushing as there'll be some new things in that area.
You can watch the entire Talk of the Town interview on ACMi.tv or check your local cable listings. Coming up, the destruction in Puerto Rico hit many in Arlington personally. How Arlington families have taken their concerns and turned them into action.
And we'll bring you this week's Spy Ponder highlights. All that and more when we come back.
Welcome to the Retired Men's Club of Arlington. My name is Phil St. Marie. Meet the friends you haven't met yet. We have 500 members. We have lots and lots of organizations to meet the friends with your own common interests. And come on down. We're looking forward to see you. Several years ago, I was wondering what I was going to be doing when I retired. My wife's father was in this men's club. The guy across the street was in the men's club. Down the street was in the men's club. So I said, hey, I'll give it a shot. And the rest has been magic. This is about friendships. We have golf, we have the speaker meetings. This is how you meet the friends. You get involved with these activities. And it's just a rewarding, fun experience. If you'd like to know more about the men's club, fine. If your wife wants you the hell out of the house, that's fine too. So come on down. There's lots of friends that you've yet to meet.
Household budgets tend to tighten up this time of year. Heating bills can cut into money set aside for food purchases. Arlington Health and Human Services has begun a campaign to get the word out about SNAP. Program benefits can mean an extra $100 in your food budget each month. Council on Aging Executive Director Susan Karp explains.
Well, SNAP isn't quite what we do when we snap our fingers, but SNAP represents Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So what this is that this is the program that began many, many years ago. Many people would remember them as food stamps. But food stamps really have come a long way because we're really trying to make sure that folks are understanding that it's supplemental nutrition assistance program. So it doesn't replace your monthly budget of what you need, to fill your cupboards, but it's to provide assistance. The SNAP gap represents those that we know that are qualified for SNAP that are not enrolled. And through research that was done through Arlington Health and Human Services, we discovered that 2,400 people in Arlington, in fact, qualify for food assistance and are not participating. We know that when people are getting better nutrition, the actual costs, the medical costs go down because people are really taking better care of themselves. Certainly the economic impact is that there are funds allocated for these programs that we want to make sure that Arlington residents are availing themselves to. This particular program is open up to all Arlington residents. So are you not participating because you don't know of the program? Are you not participating because you feel it's hard to get the application in? So there could be a whole lot of reasons, but we want to find you. Our main line, which is posted everywhere, is 781-316-3222. 3400. And when you call in, just say to the receptionist, I would like to make a SNAP appointment. And that receptionist will take the information. At the end of each day, that information will be conveyed to the staff members that are designated to process the SNAP applications. So really, within 24 to possibly 48 hours, you will receive a phone call, a return phone call from our office, and we'll do some pre-qualifying questions and then get that appointment scheduled. We'll also explore other alternatives with you in terms of other food sources in the community. Arlington has worked very, very hard with different organizations to provide as many opportunities so that Arlington residents can remain healthy and not go hungry.
Retailers throughout Arlington accept SNAP cards, including the Arlington Farmers Market.
The devastation in Puerto Rico has affected many Arlington families with relatives and friends on the island. Several have taken their anxiety and concern and turned them into action. Here's the story of one family's efforts.
Ready Set Kids, an enrichment facility here for children on Broadway in Arlington, is taking up a collection for those in Puerto Rico. One of the families involved here directly connected to the island.
Everything in Puerto Rico is horrific. My mother right now is in Puerto Rico. She was there right after Irma for a funeral, family funeral, and she was out there and to stay with my 84-year-old grandparents. And the situations that they're living right now are very hard and heartbreaking to hear. It just starts feeling hopeless. And so I woke up yesterday with a better positivity that people do care, that people do want to help.
There were a few local fundraisers that I had heard of, but I really wanted to give as directly as possible. We have an after-school care program here, and as part of the programming, the kids do service learning projects. And so it was just a really natural fit.
Batteries, we were taking C, D, and AAA. They're the most common use for flashlights and any battery-operated fan. We're also taking toilet paper, toothpaste. These are the packaged foods that we're able to get. My husband is planning a trip to Puerto Rico. He'll be leaving on the 8th. All fingers crossed that flight can make it out to Puerto Rico. Once they're there, in Ponce he wants to go see his father. His father is 84 years old. Anybody in those buildings where his father lives, there's a lot of elderly people, a lot of families with children and babies that we're hoping to bring these goods to.
The bulk of donations coming out of here will go out after October 4th, but they will still be collecting more items to send out as care packages after that. Brenda Mahoney, Arlington Public News.
Children in the center's after-school program are pitching in by packing up all the donations. And Nadia's husband will be headed down to the family's village on the southern coast of the island with all the supplies. Arlington firefighter Alex Santos also has family in Puerto Rico. Their village, Comerío, is located in the still difficult-to-reach center of the island. Through the cooperation of Fire Chief Robert Jefferson, Town Manager Adam Chapdelaine, and the Arlington Firefighters Union, IAF Local 1297, the Highland Fire Station became a community donation center. Individuals and schools have been collecting items that will be shipped to the island later this week. And we certainly send our thoughts to all the families that have relatives in Puerto Rico.
You can also make donations to hurricane relief at redcross.org and through the Boston Foundation Massachusetts United for Puerto Rico effort at tbf.org. Residents pull up a cup of coffee with a cop.
And the Spy Ponder season is heating up. That and more when we come back.
Hi, it's Susan Karp. I'm the Executive Director of the Arlington Council on Aging and host of Living Out Loud. Welcome back. I'd like to tell you about fuel assistance. Don't be cold this winter. The Fuel Assistance Program begins November 1st and ends on April 30th. If you have any questions, give us a call at the Council on Aging, 781-316-3400. Don't be cold.
There's a long tradition of cops and coffee. Today, the Arlington Police Department invited residents to join the conversation. Today is National Coffee with a Cop Day, and residents took the opportunity to spend some time getting to know their local police officers over coffee and donuts.
So today is National Coffee with a Cop Day. So we wanted to bring our offices over here at Dunkin' Donuts, and we wanted the community to come in to say hello, get to know some of our police officers, and enjoy a cup of coffee with us.
I think it's a nice way to break ice, and for people who may be a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit intimidated, I think it's a nice way to go.
I think people just like the opportunity to speak to a police officer and just have a normal conversation and kind of off the record hear their concerns or questions, and it was just nice having a conversation with people.
And also some of the children come in and they get to meet the police officers. I have 5 grandchildren and I always try to promote that with them, and I think it's a great idea.
And I'm here with my son Martin, and I thought he might enjoy seeing all the officers in uniform, which he did. He liked meeting them, but he liked the donuts better.
What was better, the police officer or the donuts?
It benefits us just as much as it does the community. And when you go to these community events, you find out there's a whole lot more support out there than you really think. You know, most people that came in today, one of the first things they said was, "Thank you," which it makes you feel good. It makes you feel, it's comforting, put it that way.
So going forward, maybe we'll move around to different locations. We'll continue to post on our Twitter page, our Facebook page, and all our social media outlets about where the next locations will be. And we're hoping that more people will come and join us.
Straight from Studio B, here's this week's Spy Ponder Update.
I'm Max Cohen, and this is your Arlington High School sports update here from the press box. I'll start off with some Spy Ponders football, and they look like they're in a prime position for a playoff spot this year. They're 3-1 and undefeated in league play, beating Woburn Memorial 20-13 last Friday, and Winchester 24-21 the week before that. They play for the top spot in the Middlesex Liberty League this week against Lexington, which will be a pivotal matchup that decides the course of the season. Speaking of the boys soccer team, they're also the top seed with an 8-0-1 record, and they face Wilmington October 6th. But you know who else plays October 6th? The girls soccer team, looking out to pick up their 6th win of the season. Field hockey looks to get back into the league race against Wilmington High School October 9th. Boys and girls track and field take on Lexington High School October 10th. They're both off to a strong start this season, with the boys standing at 4-0 and the girls at 3-1 after a tough loss to Woburn Memorial. Girls volleyball takes on Wilmington in a league game on October 10th, and boys golf hopes to avenge their loss against Belmont, facing Reading on October 11th. I'm Max Cohen. This has been your Arlington High School Sports Update. We'll see you next time.
You can find lots of Spy Ponder sports action on our website at acmi.tv or by checking your local cable listings.
And you can check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Arlington Public.
And if you'd like to be part of Arlington Public News and ACMi, email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by the studio at 85 Park Ave. I'm James Milan.
And I'm Sean Stackhouse. Thanks for joining us.